Weather Warriors, welcome to your winter forecast 2019-2020 bonus video. This is a detailed version of the winter forecast. If you want to see the simplified version, click up here in the right corner of the video because we go over the maps, very simple stuff. This video, we're going to get really detailed. This is for the super weather enthusiasts. We're going to talk about the ocean, sea surface temperature patterns, and we're going to dig deep into the video here. But first and foremost, let's do a quick review here. This is kind of this is the crazy fun map, and then we'll get into the normal stuff. Everyone's doing these crazy maps this year, but it's looking like the western U.S. It's going to be warm and drier. The eastern U.S., particularly northeast, going to be kind of wet and cooler than average, and in between, there's going to be some other variability here. But let's just get right into the analysis here. How did I come up with this winter forecast? Well, there's four early key factors as of early September: the ENSO, the PDO, the NAO, and the solar cycle, which has weak correlation, but we'll go over that in a second because a lot of people talk about that on this channel. Okay, so the ENSO, this is measuring our El Nino La Nina. So what's it going to look like this winter? Well, typically when you get temperatures in the sea surface temperatures out in the Pacific Ocean, when they're above average for 3 or more months, you get an El Nino. When they're below average for 3 or more months, you get a La Nina. And when they're in between, it's typically a neutral. Now, where are things trending? Well, they're trending towards neutral. And so if we look at this chart here, this is our sea surface temperatures. This is from June 11th to the around now, about a week ago. This is September. And you can see it's really starting to trend to the south all of a sudden, which is indicative of cooling. This is your cutoff for La Nina. And that's a borderline La Nina at that. It's kind of dipping in that area, but staying in the neutral area. I think this is going to kind of plateau and really not quite hit the La Nina territory. But I think it's going to be a cool and neutral winter. And that's what the models are saying as well. Now, let's get into a little more detail here. Go back to that. This is kind of the typical pattern for a neutral winter. Your polar air masses are a little bit further north out west. They're going to track into the northeastern United States towards the Great Lakes region, and that's going to track eastward as well. And there's some other factors that could change the shape of this jet, which we'll go over in a second. Subtropical jet is usually a little weaker during a neutral. El Nino, those things are very strong like last winter. And that will be a little bit less precipitation for the southern U.S. than an El Nino winter, but still probably could get average to above average, especially in this area right here where these troughs do get active, or these jet streams do get active. It could be above average in this region right here. And then very warm temperatures out here in the western United States, southern United States, southwestern United States, and drier conditions. So that's a typical neutral winter, colder than average for the northern U.S. Precipitation outlooks here, typically kind of drier than average in the southwestern United States, and then some indication of above average for the Ohio Valley, well, more towards the Tennessee area, Tennessee Valley. And these are previous years, previous analogs with those types of things. Pacific Decadal Oscillation, this is the PDO. Right now it's a positive PDO where we got warm waters in the Gulf of Alaska and the East Coast. It's actually pretty warm all over, but right now it is warm out in that area. And that can kind of bend the jet stream up just a little bit north and bring warmer temperatures out in the western United States. And this is what a typical winter with a positive PDO looks like. Warmer conditions in the west, cooler conditions in the east. And precipitation anomalies, you get typically warmer conditions in the southwest, drier conditions in the southwest and maybe even northwest United States. Some mixed signals kind of out in this region, sometimes drier, and then a little bit wetter in the east mid-Atlantic region of the United States and southeast United States. Now, we also have another factor, and this is a wild card factor because it's hard to predict farther out in advance, but there is some notable trends here. This is the North Atlantic Oscillation. There's weak low pressure and strong blocking activity out here when it's in the negative area. And typically, you can get a jet stream that diverts to the south with cold temperatures, cold shots, and some snowfall in that area. And warmer than normal conditions out here in the North Atlantic. You can kind of kink the jet stream to the south. Now, what does a negative NAO look like? let's look at the indices here. Where is the NAO? Well, the NAO has been actually pretty negative for the past few months. This is going all the way back to, this is January 2019. This is July, and somewhere over here is present. Probably, I don't know, is that April maybe? So it's been negative for quite a long period of time, and then last year was positive for quite a long period of time. If this continues, that could be really amplifying the cold air in the northeastern United States and potential for snowfall in that area as well. All right, we'll go back to this. Now, what does a negative NAO winter look like for December? Typically cold in the east half of the United States, particularly the northeastern, north central United States. How about January? These are previous years that had a negative NAO in January. Kind of colder, and it's a little bit more spread out, and it's more located over the north central United States. And then February, kind of cold all over the place, except in western United States. So typically, that's what a NAO looks like, negative NAO. Now a lot of people talk about these. Sunspot cycles. Right now, we're in a solar minimum. Okay, so less sunspots. Some people will say that these cause really cold winters and stuff like that, cooler temperatures. The research is mixed on that. There's weak correlations. There's some indication. But again, the research is pretty weak on that. But there very well could be cooler than average temperatures due to this lower solar cycle. So we definitely could throw that in there. Now, what are the current sea surface temperatures looking like? Where is everything trending? Okay, so we went over the basic patterns. Where's everything trending? Now, this is the area where we measure El Nino, La Nina neutral. This is kind of this area right here. And this is back in February 2019. Sea surface temperature anomalies. We're going to move this to the present here. This is February 2019. Now watch what happens here. Kind of warm out in that area. This is March, April, May, June, July, August. Yeah, this is the farthest it went out. Actually, it should be September. There it is. Kind of moved. But anyway, September right here. It's really starting to get cooler there. It's something we got to definitely watch. I think it's going to kind of flatline and plateau in the neutral category. But if this does continue to dip, you're going to get a La Nina pattern, which could make some changes to the winter forecast. But right now, I think it's going to be a cool end neutral winter. Here's the zoomed out view. You got very warm temperatures out here. A positive PDO for the most part. We're going to have to watch the coastal waters here in this area. But for the most part, a positive PDO could cause some ridging out here in the western United States. Neutral winter down here looks to be the case. Cooler than average temperatures, or slightly cooler than average temperatures. And then warm conditions out here, just like we were talking about, that negative NAO, could really dip the jet stream south, and it could bring in some cold shots for the northern United States, bring up some storms potentially, and just north of those storm tracks is where you're going to get your cold air for your snowstorms. It's potentially some Comma-head type activity, your blizzards out in the northern, northeastern United States, and then clippers kind of right down the track of this ridge. So you get on this other side of the ridge. That's where your clippers are going to kind of fall down out of Canada into the central United States, probably more like this region right here, but maybe more than your typical El Nino pattern like we had last year. So that's what the general pattern looks like. Again, this is zoomed in. This is the North Atlantic. Pretty warm up there, just kind of a zoomed in view of that. Now, what are the current teleconnections? These are these patterns that I was talking about. We'll go over those in more detail here. This is the SOI. This is going to be your Southern Oscillation Index measuring your El Nino, La Nina. Right now, it's kind of in this region. We kind of briefly went over that. Very close to negative 0.5, but it's still a little bit cooler. That would classify as a neutral pattern right now. Again, that's a view we already looked at. And then the PDO, it's been kind of jumping, but overall, it's been kind of trending positive as of late. So I factored in a positive PDO for this winter. We'll have to watch that. But right now, it's looking positive, or slightly positive. And then the PNA, won't go too much into that at the moment, but it is positive right now. And it was negative last spring and positive last winter or last year. So we'll have to watch that as well. And then the NAO, it's been negative again for quite a while here, for quite a few months. If this pattern held on, you have a pretty crazy winter for the northern, eastern United States. The current AO, kind of similar, but this is very hard to predict this far out, but it has been negative for quite a while here. So this is indicative of pretty cold winter up in the northern eastern half of the United States. Now, where's things trending? Well, we already went over that. How about the models? What are they trending for the ENSO, for the neutral, El Nino, or La Nina? Well, this is where are we at right now? This is kind of in this area right here. This is about a month or two past. They release these, every once in a while. But this is the models. These are all your models here on the right. This is the kind of a spaghetti chart, kind of like how they do with the hurricanes, but this is measuring time. So this is December, January, February, this line right here, and we can kind of see where all the models are converging on. This black line is the average. So the average actually is 0.5, which is kind of surprising. So I think it's going to be a little bit cooler because right now it's definitely has been a little bit cooler. So things are verifying a little bit cooler than what the models are currently indicating. So that's definitely something to watch. But these models are just a little warm at the moment. But overall, it still looks pretty neutral. Most of these models are 0.5, maybe a little bit above or below. I think, this winter is going to end up kind of in this region right here, believe it or not. And so that's the current models. And then here's another one, the CFS model. I had that in my winter forecast video, just, it's something to see because they do have those products available on Tropical Tidbits where you can view the 3-month trends and stuff like that far in advance. So you can check that website out. But the CFS model is definitely a little bit cooler than the other models. The CFS V2, that is. And I think that's more accurate how this winter is going to play out, at least what that's showing right there. And this is December, January, and February right there. Looks a little bit better. So that is going to be about it for this video, this deep dive. It's really all we can get into. I'm going to go over the forecast one more time real quick. Again, if you haven't seen my simplified version, you can watch that. But we went over a lot of it in this video as well. Temperature outlook, this is kind of what it's summing up to. I think everything we looked at, we're kind of making a composite here and kind of weighting things a little bit. I think it's going to be a below average out here in the northeastern half of the United States, with moderately below average up here in the northern United States where you could see more frigid air masses. Here it's going to be slightly below average. Okay, this is -2 to -4 in this region, -4 plus in this region, or -4 below in that region. And then the East Coast, or the West Coast, about 2 degrees above average, so slightly above average in this yellow with moderately above average in this region right here. There's going to be a pocket over here somewhere where I think it's going to be a lot warmer. Okay, and then so that's going to be your temperatures. And then how about your precipitation? This is going to sum up to be probably above average out in this region right here, particularly in the mid-Atlantic region right here. I think you're going to get some instances of the subtropical jet, and then I think you're going to get your jet stream to kind of dive down, kind of lift. I think you're going to see a nice storm track here in the central part of the East Coast, east central part of the coast. Average precipitation in between, and then slightly below average precipitation in the West Coast with moderately below average in the southwestern United States. Now, snowfall, factoring in the cold, because that was precipitation. That included rain and snow. This is just snow. So with the colder than average temperatures composited with the average precipitation, you could get above average snow in this area, slightly above average, with moderately above average out here in the northeastern United States along the Appalachian Mountains and just to the northeast or the northwest of those. Again, your jackpot zone, I think, is going to be kind of somewhere in this area right here. That could be upgraded later. We'll see what happens. And then below average out here, moderately below in this southwestern quadrant of the United States with the west-southwest half, even parts of the southern plains, receiving slightly below average snowfall. Now, I know these areas don't get snow. This is just because it made this map easier to draw. And this is mostly for the higher elevations. There's some mountains in the southwestern United States. So this is mostly accounting for higher elevations and for simplification purposes. What does this mean? Well, this is percentages. So this area in yellow means 33% below average. So you take your snowfall for December through, etch that out. It should be December through February. You take your 3-month average and then you subtract 33%. So you would take your 3-month average, times it by 33%. Whatever number you get, you would subtract from your snowfall total for that 3-month period. The opposite's true out here. You would add 33%, and then this area, obviously, you would add 66%. And then this area, you would subtract 66%. So you can find that information on your National Weather Service page as well. So that is what it's looking like at the moment. Again, we're going to be releasing several updates. This is just kind of a detailed deep dive for the super weather enthusiasts. We'll get into more detail later. It's still pretty far out. Again, this is a hobbyist channel. Your official forecast, again, always rely to the National Weather Service. This is for hobbyists and weather enthusiasts. And so subscribe if you want more of these videos. We're going to be releasing these probably weekly or bi-weekly. Hit that like button if you like this video. Again, check out that winter forecast. Move this thing out of the way. Check out the simplified winter forecast if you haven't seen that yet. We got a contest on there as well, so you'll be able to enter that as well. So hope you enjoyed today's video. Well, more of these coming out soon, and we'll see you soon.